So what I want to talk about today is whether real scientific research is boring. We've all heard of, professors being really boring. We've heard of scientists, we sort of imagine that it's a really boring career. But I'm going to tell you that it actually is super, super exciting. And I've seen a lot of people that had, amazing executive careers in business, amazing athletes and stuff like that, professional athletes, go into academia because it is crazy fun, crazy exciting, and it's really just kind of it's fun. Not to say that there's downsides, but it is fun and exciting. It's not really all that boring. I don't think anybody would sort of classify that's in the career that it is a really boring thing to do. So if you don't know me, I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There were so many people to help me out that I wanted to pay the favor for it and to help you out. So there's certainly aspects of the career that is boring. I think a lot of things are like that anyways. Most careers have this sort of aspects of it that you're like, golly, I don't want to do this. It's like if you're a salesperson, doing another trip overseas, it's just like, oh my God, I got to take another airplane ride and airplane flight, although it's kind of weird at this moment because that's not happening. It's 2020. But that is a big component of what you actually do. And so there is really boring things with the career, right? So data collection and data cleaning. So this is where you actually will collect data and then clean it. You actually clean it. There's errors and stuff like that. So you got to pour through it and look through it. As professors, usually like to get graduate students and undergraduate students to do that kind of stuff, but sometimes we have to go through it and we have to check it, obviously, to go through it. So there is that component. The other thing is, and this is the thing that I think is the killer of the career, is the solitude and the isolation of doing research. That's where it gets boring. That's where it's tough. And that's where a lot of us have a lot of sort of issues. That's why I think doing a YouTube channel where, I'm connecting with you and stuff like that, it's actually a really important thing. I think getting this, once a day hit of actually talking to people and seeing people, I think it's really, really important for all of us. Whether it's me being my goofy self or, I'm not necessarily the best person to look at. Anyways, so, in terms of people that are in the game, they're going to say that scientific research is incredibly exciting and it far outweighs a lot of things that they would do. And I know that there's what's called the selection bias that's going on there. But, a lot of executives, a lot of sort of professional athletes and stuff like that, what they end up doing is they, once their career is done, they're figuring out, what do I do now? So they do an MBA, and then they realize once they're doing the MBA, they're like, I really like this. It's kind of exciting. It's super cool. And then they start going into the career a little bit more, right? And they start pushing into the career. Executives kind of have that same thing. They sort of go in a moment where they change, and you get to see that they're really excited about it. So what's cool with that is you do see that people do get excited about it, and they often will say the reason why they've switched into the career is simply because it's exciting, rather than doing the sort of more executive stuff. I worked in industry, and it is definitely different. And there's lots of reasons for that, and I kind of want to get into it. So this is where real science is really far from boring, on a daily basis, right? In the macro sense of it, it's not boring at all. It's very exciting, but sometimes it's day to day. Some of the day to day stuff that you might do is kind of a little boring. But so scientific research is actually really, really competitive. So imagine Clash of the Titans. So that show, Big Bang Theory with Sheldon Cooper. They do a very good job of sort of showing the cultural aspects of it, where people are really, they do that, right? They're actually sort of fighting over ideas, and it's exciting in that aspect. And people are super crazy smart that are in academia, that they are just they're very competitive because they're crazy smart. They're always kind of sort of trying to show that they're smart. And so it can be very, very competitive, right? So I don't think that is a healthy way to do it, but at the same time, that does play into the game, and so it gets really competitive. You often see, fights, I guess, academic fights, not necessarily like fighting, but academic fights in terms of in intellectual debates and stuff that they have, and so it's really fun to see that. The other thing is that, this is kind of a weird word, but scientific research is really seductive. In the sense that once you start doing it, you start going into that route, you get really, really, really pulled into it. It becomes like all encompassing. It's your whole life. I think that's another aspect where I think that there is like moments of burnout and stuff like that because it becomes so seductive. And so like there's times where I just want to keep reading. There's so much more. There's like, I don't know enough. I just got to keep going. And so you have to sort of compartmentalize that and sort of keep it at bay because it's so seductive. It's like playing, I don't know if you've ever played, I know it's totally nerding out with, guy stuff, but like role playing or simulation games. I used to play this game called Civilization where I would spend hours and hours and hours playing it. It's still going, but it's like that. You get really pulled into what you're doing, and the whole world sort of melts behind you. So it's extremely seductive. The other thing that's super cool is that on a daily basis, you often have amazing discoveries in your own mind. But you can't write those out. You can't publish those. But you learn a lot. So the reason is because science is over here, it's kind of advancing, and then you are learning towards what the science is actually saying, and you're discovering all these things, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know about this, I didn't know about that, and you're constantly doing that every day. I've been doing this for, I started doing research back in 2000, so now it's 2020, so 20 years where I've been doing this for all through my undergrad, my master's, graduate school, all the way through, and it doesn't disappear. You always have these little discoveries every day. It's always really fun and exciting. You're like, I didn't know that. I call them mind flips often. So there's things where you're going towards it and you learn all these things, but then every once in a while, like once a quarter or maybe once every couple of weeks, you have a mind flip where you totally change your mindset on something. And you're like, golly, I wish I would have thought of that before, but I didn't. So that happens a lot. And, another thing that I think is really fun about science that makes it super not boring at all, it's the thrill of the hunt, right? So for those of you who don't hunt, I don't hunt now, but when I was younger, born and raised in Northern Ontario, I hunted. And so what you would do, there's two ways to hunt. One of them is you sort of sit in one spot and you sit there for a few hours and watch it, early in the morning or late at night when it's dusky. And people are like, that seems really boring. You're just sitting there. But it's not, right? It's kind of really exciting to do that. The way that I hunted all the time was just walking. And you might think, well, that's really boring. You're walking for hours into the bush. And, actually it's not. It's really fun. And often you don't see anything, but every once in a while you do see something and you're like, that's awesome. It's super fun. So that is what academia is really like, or doing research is really like. Real scientific research is you're really just kind of plodding along and all of a sudden you just see this thing. I used to hunt partridge and moose. And a little bit of deer, but mostly just partridge. I wasn't really, into the other things, big game. I just like partridge. So little birds, basically, like pheasants. And, you'd run across them and it was super fun and exciting. And that would be why you would actually do it, right? It was just kind of super fun. That's what academia is like. It's boring. And you're walking along, you're kind of working and treading and using all this energy. And all of a sudden you just see something. You're like, oh, wow, gotta run after it, right? So that's kind of what it's like. And, real scientific research is not boring at all. It is it's so not boring that I think most of us that are in the game develop a lot of maladies with it, and that's what a lot of this channel is about, is kind of coaching us through these things. of like, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to do this. It's, you know, it's okay to you know, be a real human being and do real life stuff, because it really sucks you in. It really does. It's very seductive in a lot of different ways. So scientific research, real scientific research, not boring. It's not stodgy kind of stuff. It's actually is super fun, super cool, super. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. Don't believe all that kind of stuff. It's not boring at all. Once you get into it, super exciting to be part of it. So with that, hopefully you like this video. Give me a good old thumbs up, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.